There just aren't that many artists who are pushing 6 decades, not of life, but of their musical career. And this guy's 81 and making sprawling concept albums.
I want to believe in a dreamless transition.
Hey, this is Matt O'Leary, and it's time to plunge into Paul Simon's 15th studio album. He did 5 with Simon and Garfunkel back in the day, and again 15 on his own, dating all the way back to 1965 when the debut came out. And to be honest, I'm not really a massive fan or super knowledgeable about his discography. You know, I know the hits, I know his second album, the self-titled album, I know Graceland pretty well, and I did really like 2016 Stranger to Stranger, especially that title track, which I just go back to all the time. But other than that, this guy is just a living legend, like a folk, rock, and pop songwriting icon. So he definitely deserves people like me to go back and just listen to all the stuff we missed. So I've done a bit of that over the past few weeks. And, you know, like most discographies, I feel like it is a bit of a mixed bag. There's hits and misses, and more misses than hits for me. But there are some gems to uncover. Like 1973's There Goes Rhymin' Simon, or 83's Heart and Bones, which that one was very unexpected for me. But, you know, if you're like me and you haven't really dug into his music, I'd recommend starting there after Simon and Garfunkel's classics and, you know, Graceland probably. And the first thing I have to say about this new album, 7 Psalms, is just how unbelievably amazing this guy's voice sounds at 81 years old. It just sounds like he's just taking really good care of himself generally, and, you know, he's buffing and shining that golden voice. And unlike a lot of ancient rockers playing the hits at casinos or stadiums, you know, Simon is not resting on his artistic laurels here. The idea for the album came to him in a dream, actually, and it's based heavily on the biblical book of Psalms, and he woke up at 3 a.m. a couple nights a week to write the lyrics. And the result is a very esoteric thing with Simon's typical wide-eyed wit and sentimentality. It's this weaving acoustic piece that's obviously intended to be listened to as one continuous piece. You know, they have the streaming version on Spotify and other places has just one track at 33 minutes. Although there are 7 movements to the piece, you know, 7 movements, very biblically appropriate, just like 33 minutes. And each one runs about 4 to 5 minutes in length. So fairly normal song. All of them really bleed together with this glimmering finger-picked acoustic guitar and Simon's crystal clear voice, again, just glorious as ever. I think the lack of intensity, the lack of drive is gonna put some people to sleep. Like, if you don't like acoustic guitar, if you don't like folk music or soft singer-songwriter stuff, it may not be for you. But the album introduces these very unique, very interesting sound design elements that bring a whole new life and just new intrigue to a tried and true formula. These eerie tubular bells, which you'll notice right away on the record, usher in the utmost reverence and solemnity and are just sprinkled in throughout the album. And these very sudden, like low bass, like bass thuds that feel like you're in a movie theater or something, like on one of my favorite moments, Trail of Volcanoes. And then there's just the plethora of other instruments peppered throughout the album, like woodwinds and strings. And yeah, just plenty of other sound design details that set the stage for this very reflective, thinking man's album. That's really the vibe here. And the production, the mixing, the recording just sounds out of this world. Like truly next level sounds here. Like that is the highlight of the album, is the recording and the production. I did say it was mellow, but it's not like all super moody, super melancholic stuff. There are some lighter moments, like the bluesy number in the middle, which has a little more levity, a little more wit, a little more playfulness, even if the lyrics are still pretty contemplative and heavy. Your Forgiveness is probably the most explicit wrestling with God moment on the album, with all these reasons to doubt and then finding faith again. And, you know, Psalms is really a book filled with praise and thanksgiving, but also a lot of hurt and a lot of lamentations and anger with God. And this is Simon taking his own petitions to God in an oblique way, although just the right level of oblique, where he'll say something that feels very personal, very vulnerable, and then quickly move back to something weird and mystical. The Lord track that opens things up and then comes back a couple times throughout the album as a reprise. This one feels like more direct language about God, even though they're metaphors. The Lord is a puff of smoke that disappears when the wind blows. The Lord is my personal joke, my reflection in the window. I've been thinking about our troubled nature, a benediction and a curse. Are we all just trial and error, one of a billion in the universe? This isn't the first time he's written with these religious themes. I mean, think Bridge Over Troubled Water. Kind of a tangent here, but like imagine writing a song like that, like Bridge Over Troubled Water, and then just giving it to your buddy Garfunkel to sing. Like, here you go. Some of the most arresting, some of the most beautiful moments on the album are when Paul's wife joins near the end on the track Wait or Sacred Harp. Compositionally and melodically, these are two big highlights for me. Like so many strange chord changes and melodic twists and turns, very unexpected. Nothing is particularly catchy though, which makes the first one or two listens pretty tough, but it really takes 3, 4, 5 listens to get it. And still, it really doesn't catch me or strike me in quite the same way that great pop music does. And another criticism I have with the album is more based on Simon's style overall, which really does endure across his career, is that his melodies can sometimes be a little bit ponderous and meandering and lack direction and feel more like they're about the lyrics than the tunes. And again, I can see how certain listeners could prefer this actually, but it's just not my thing. And when he kind of brings in one of these modern references like the COVID virus is the Lord, it just kind of takes me out of this very heavenly, out-of-world experience. With that said, though, this is an achievement of an album, very much worth celebrating. He uses metaphor and simile to perfection. The acoustic guitar parts are so beautiful, and the singing is just the best I've ever heard from an 80-year-old, to be honest. And it's a fitting mood for this season of Paul Simon's life when he's, looking back and considering the very deepest of things. And in that way, it's got a very David Bowie Black Star feel to it. But knowing Paul Simon, he could come back in 2 years with some goofy country album or something. So it's a solid 7.5 out of 10 for me. I really enjoyed this one. A lot more than I thought I would. I don't think I'll return to it all that often, but, there are some movies where, like, you only need to see it 1 or 2 times and not 20. I can see this one being a little polarizing, so I'm interested to know, like, was this a snore fest for you, or did you really like it as much as I did? And what other Paul Simon records are your favorite in the catalog? And as always, thank you so much for watching.